So the Boruto anime has been on hiatus since March of 2023, and with Boruto Two Blue Vortex manga ongoing a couple months after, it has been almost 2 years since the Boruto anime has been airing. At the time of this recording, the Boruto Two Blue Vortex manga has around 18 chapters. The manga has been ongoing for a while now, and with the current arc introducing new characters and new enemies, I do want to talk about the potential of the Boruto anime finally coming back onto air. Obviously, when it comes to the Boruto anime, we do know that it did end off at a very interesting point where it did have its own anime original ending. The Boruto anime ended off right after the battle between Kawaki versus Boroshiki, where Boruto and Kawaki were looking at each other at the top of the Hokage monument. Obviously, that is not the overall ending of Boruto Part 1, at least when it comes to everything before the time skip begins. There is still a major arc left to be animated, which is of course the omnipotence event, to be left animated in order to finish off Boruto Part 1. Now, I did ask you guys on Twitter on the potential return date of the Boruto Part 2 anime, and the consensus was around late 2026 and early 2027. If it is about late 2027, that would be basically 4 years removed since the last time we saw the Boruto anime air, and with the current anime arc ending being called Boruto Part 1, the next time the anime does come back, it would be titled Boruto Part 2, with the start of the omnipotence event heading into the time skip. Now, obviously, the timing of this video can be pretty odd depending on whenever you're watching this video. However, the reason why I'm making this video right now is simply because the Naruto IP has been promoting the Boruto series a lot as of late. Obviously, the Boruto manga has been transitioning into Two Blue Vortex, and with 4 volumes already released in Japan, they recently released the English volume for the first time today. So that's why I'm really talking about the Boruto series, because as a whole, it seems like the Naruto IP is finally transitioning into the time skip and giving Boruto its flowers. I'm even seeing Japanese fans on Twitter actually hype up this series, as Boruto, surprisingly enough, when it comes to the manga sales, they are pretty low compared to other series. Yes, they do sell very well, however, it's not as much compared to other shonen series. The manga does sell very well in other countries like France, for example. It is still very popular online because it is an online release. However, as of late, I'm starting to see a lot of hype and a lot of excitement coming from the Japanese fandom, which honestly is the most important fan since the manga originates from there. And with the anime currently on hiatus, especially since Boruto Part 1 ended on an anime original ending, I think the plan right now is for the series to build as much hype as possible for the anime's anticipated return. Because obviously, when it comes to the Boruto anime, while there is a lot of mixed opinions, it is still generally liked. Yes, many people have a lot of criticisms when it comes to the anime. I'm not innocent from that either, because I also have made videos criticizing the anime. However, the anime generates a lot of money and it still brings a lot of viewership whenever it does air. I mean, you can just look up the stats online when it comes to the viewership online. So while the anime does have its problems, especially from a weekly schedule, I do think whenever the anime does come back, there will be a lot of anticipation, simply because it is on hiatus right now. The manga has been hitting on all cylinders, and personally, in my opinion, I do think there's enough content for the anime to adapt a lot of the stuff that hasn't been shown yet, especially since the anime hasn't fully adapted everything from the end of Part 1. I mean, you have to adapt the omnipotence arc, and in my opinion, that is easily the best part of Boruto Part 1. It's not even close. It's the greatest moment in Boruto by far when it comes to the build-up and the anticipation of it. So whenever that does come around, I do think there's going to be a lot of excitement for that. However, when it comes to the time skip, there is still a lot of content that can be adapted into the anime as well. Yes, there are 18 chapters, and that is a lot of content to adapt. However, I do think they're gonna wait a little bit longer before the anime truly comes back, as a lot of you guys have said it. The anime, according to you guys think that it will come back around late 2026, early 2027, and I think that is pretty reasonable, considering that the way that the anime ended off at the time, there was not much content left to be adapted, and not only that, Boruto Part 1 manga did not end around that time. The Boruto manga at the time was wrapping up everything pre-time skip, and when it did go into the time skip, there was a 3-month hiatus to prepare everything. Now, obviously, we do know that the anime and manga do work parallel, or there are essentially multiple timelines that intersect against each other, especially when it comes to certain specific details, such as anime original arcs. We saw this with the Kara activation arc, where they went into detail about the Kara organization before they showed off a lot of the Kara members, especially when it comes to the lead up of Kawaki. Now, it's going to be interesting whenever the anime does return, because whether it's late 2026 or the end of this year or 2027, will they follow a similar format like Boruto Part 1. I've expressed this before, and no matter how hard I've tried to justify it, I'm gonna be a real man. I just don't think a monthly manga and a weekly anime work together in coherence. It just really doesn't make any sense no matter how hard you try to justify it, because at some point you're gonna have to introduce filler. And yes, I know filler doesn't really count in the Boruto anime. Everything is considered 100% canon, and everything anime canon that's not related to the manga is consistently canon to the story. However, let's be real here, there's a lot of episodes in the anime that does drag, in my opinion. And I think with the anime coming back, whenever it does come back, I do think they should change up the format. I mean, you saw this with Bleach. I think there should be a seasonal schedule for the Boruto anime whenever Boruto Part 2 does arrive. Whether it's 2026, 2027, whenever, 2050 for all I care. I really hope Period takes their time when it comes to this anime, because Two Blue Vortex has been really good in the manga so far. It's been hitting every chapter, and I really want to see these characters animated, right? I do want to see Boruto use his flying Raijin Jutsu in the anime, and I want to see it animated well, because I do think we deserve to get some really good animation coming out of the time skip. And not only that, consistency, because there are times where the animation looks funky or inconsistent and sometimes goofy. On the other hand, the animation could be really good and really fun to watch. However, all I ask for is some consistency, because you saw in the code arc just how inconsistent the animation was. While we did get some crazy good looking fights, the animation and character designs for some of these characters, such as Boruto's Karma design and Code for example, didn't look the greatest and was not really consistent compared to the manga. And I think for the anime to truly get its justice, I wouldn't mind waiting another year or two, because the manga will also go farther into its own story. And if by the time we do get to 2026 and 2027, there will be plenty of content to be adapted into the anime. I mean, not only would you have the omnipotence arc adapted from the end of part 1, but you would get much more content from TBV to be adapted right away. You wouldn't have to wait that long. I mean, we may get a few episodes of filler, especially if the anime continues to be weekly, but by the time we get to those years, there will be a lot of content to be adapted. We're already 18 chapters into Two Blue Vortex, and with how the series has been moving as of late, by introducing a lot of these side characters and villains, it's going to be very exciting and interesting to know what will the story and how will it develop later on into the following years, because we don't know how long Two Blue Vortex will run. Hopefully it's as long as Boruto Part 1, maybe even longer. I think the longer the better, because we get more content and we get more interesting storylines when it comes to Boruto, Kawaki, the side characters, and the current villains in the main story. And by the time we get to 2026 and 2027, the anime not only could just finish off Boruto Part 1 with the Omnipotence event, but could head straight into Two Blue Vortex by showing off teenage Boruto fighting the Shinju and Code for example. Now that would be awesome, because there are points in the Boruto anime whenever they did get to the canon parts of the manga, they flew right through. I mean, we saw this with Kawaki. Once he was introduced into the Boruto anime, we saw how much content we got. I think it was like chapters 17 to like 51, and it was like 50 episodes straight canon. There was a few filler episodes here and there, but for the most part, we got banger episode after banger episode. And in my opinion, I think it would be executed even better if the anime comes back as a seasonal product, because we would get more consistency from just getting manga material. Now, this doesn't fully guarantee the utmost quality from the anime. Obviously, we've seen how good the Boruto anime can be, such as episode 65 or 192, and we've seen some of the lowest of lows. We've seen some pretty bad animated episodes. Now, I'm not going to be too harsh on the animators, because from what I've heard, a lot of the animators had a hard time actually getting the episodes out, especially at the end of Boruto Part 1 during the code arc. They were struggling to get these episodes out, and they were struggling to get it out by their deadlines, which is why a lot of these episodes looked a little bit jank at the end of Boruto Part 1, which is why they ended the anime early, because these animators were struggling. So I definitely will give them some leeway and understand that it's a very difficult job, knowing that they're getting paid pennies on the dollar. The animators don't really make much money, so you have to keep that in mind when it comes to critiquing it. You know, my perspective has changed within the past few years. I've kind of researched this topic in school, so I'm trying to understand it better and better. because I'm an outsider within this industry. So whenever the anime does come back, I do want to say if it is seasonal like I'm hoping, similar to how Bleach is with the 1000-Year Blood War arc, hopefully the animation is consistent. It doesn't have to be crispy clean, it doesn't have to be crazy. Obviously having a seasonal anime does not guarantee good animation. Just because you have more time to work on a chunk amount of episodes instead of a weekly schedule doesn't mean these animators are still overtaxed when it comes to meeting their deadlines and bringing out the best quality for these episodes. Obviously, as a fan, I want to see the Boruto anime come back in the best shape possible with the best animation available. However, I will give some leeway as a fan because I do understand that perspective now, because animating is a very difficult job, knowing that the pay isn't the greatest either. So the quality may not even be the best even if it does go seasonal. However, that is just my preference because that just means the anime can just cater to a chunk of episodes that matter more, rather than trying to squeeze out some random episodes that are considered canon that somehow tie loosely into the manga, which, even though I'm a fan of some of these episodes like the Kara Activation arc or the Mist Village arc earlier in the very early stages of Boruto Part 1, while they do connect to the manga, a lot of the episodes shown in Boruto Part 1, if they really aren't that connected to the manga, I don't really pay attention to them. This is coming from somebody who has watched every single episode of the Boruto anime, all 293 episodes, been watching weekly since 2019. I've went through it all, man. I've seen every episode, the highest of the highs, lowest of the lows. I just think the anime would be better, in my opinion, if it were to change to a seasonal schedule. However, that does not guarantee the quality, but more consistency in my opinion. So let me know how you guys feel about this video in the comment section below. If the Boruto anime were to come back tomorrow, for example, how excited would you be? And let me know, when do you think the Boruto anime is actually going to come back? Would it be later this year, 2026, 2027, 2030, 2050, maybe never? I do think the series as a whole is prepping for the anime to come back at some point, and with the series right now promoting the Boruto manga a lot, especially with the English volume 1 of Two Blue Vortex finally being released today, and with more of the Japanese fandom finally getting around to Boruto Two Blue Vortex, I think the anticipation for the anime to come back is starting to build up more and more over time, and as the Two Blue Vortex manga continues to get better and better with more chapters releasing on a monthly rate, I think the anime will have a massive return that will excite everyone. So let me know how you guys feel about all of that in the comment section below. So if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe, hit the bell as well, and have a good day. Peace.